Hello, my name is Arthur. In this video we're going to have another look at a helicopter unit. I've taken this first unit as far as I care to, and its script got a little frustrating for me, so I decided to take a fresh start on a new unit. I designed this smaller one. It's actually the same size. This one was scaled a little bit. Um, what I did was I went more with a tank type of unit. So this guy kind of functions like a tank. We have him shooting rockets, and his animation will let him shoot rockets from different turrets and stuff like that. So we'll just have a quick look at how he's done, and some of how he's made is available in my previous video that deals with the tank and the tank turret. Yeah, he's basically built like a tank in that he's a kinematic body, has a couple of sprites, his selected circle, and this is his shadow. Then an instanced scene, which is the body of the helicopter, and the body of the helicopter is what acts exactly like the tank turret. Then all the same bits as any of the other units has had, and the same scripts. And then there's the extra piece of animated sprite, and it started off outside of the helicopter's body, but I decided to just drop it on the helicopter body and make it a child of it because it simplifies the animating a bit. And what it is an animated sprite. I changed its type, decided to use an animated sprite instead of a animation player. And it's 4 frames of animation for the rotor. I dropped the idea of a moving rotor in the tail, and it doesn't really affect the graphic that much, not having that. The rotor does do a little bit of animation in the rotation of the helicopter body, because the rotor was set to be rotating. Other than that, I just went with the 4 frames. I cut down the old sprite sheet into 4 frames, and the shadow is simply 1 frame now. It's not animated at all. And for the animation player, his animations are really just for the lift off, and the lift off backwards is the landing. And I raised the helicopter body, which brings up the rotor because it's the parent of the rotor, so it just follows along with it. And I elevate the damage zone and the view area with the animations. And the animation list for this one is only 4 animations long. Now in its script, I have to force the direction to continuously reset to northeast. So every time it checks, the unit script checks for a direction, the helicopter script will reset it to northeast so it doesn't end up looking for animations that don't exist. Then the scene that's instanced onto the helicopter is the body. It's built exactly like the tank turret. It has 36 frames of animation consisting of 10 degrees of rotation per frame. So we start at 0 degrees, 10, 20, 30, 40. We get to 9, that's 90 degrees of rotation. And we get to 35, and that's 350 degrees of rotation. Which brings us back to 360 or 0. The node 2D it's just an empty node put there, so when there's a target to shoot at, it looks at the target, so there's a way to measure an angle that doesn't rotate anything but that node. The animation player has animations for each of the sprite frames. And what it's to do is to put the muzzle into the right location. So it's the exact same thing as the tank, where the tank turret rotates around. Nothing in Godot knows where that tank turret ends at or where the muzzle of the gun is supposed to be. The benefit with the extra animating for the muzzle on the helicopter is that it has 6 rocket tubes, and at the different angles they're visible more than they are at this angle. So it gave me the ability to change rocket tubes on different angles. There's nothing random about it, but each time it's at one angle, it will be shifting between the 6 different tubes, so it does give an appearance that the rockets are coming out of different tubes when it's rotating. In script, the script for the helicopter was simplified quite a bit because a lot of its action is already written in the turret, and the turret script took very few changes and made some corrections possible for the tank also. So I made the frame variable global because that's sent away for a reason, and gave it a home rotation variable, and the home rotation variable is so that the tank turret can home onto the front of the tank, and the helicopter body can home on the position, on the direction it's moving to. So a little bit of change to the new target function, where if there's a target, the home rotation becomes null, and vice versa when it gets the home position value. And then a function for getting the frame number, and it returns the frame number times 10, and what that is that's used to animate the collision shapes of the helicopter. So yeah, the turret GD really simplified the script, and that's what got me frustrated with the other helicopter, was its script was getting confusing. So in the unit script at move direction, I've added a move angle, and this angle is what's sent to the turret in order to home into the direction that either the tank or the helicopter is moving in, because they're still constrained to 8 direction movement. So at the point where they get their vectors and their direction, they're also getting the isometric angles to go along with those, and that way the turret script knows what angle to rotate either the turret to be at the front of the tank or the helicopter to face in the direction it's flying. Then the helicopter script was considerably simplified. The other one was getting lengthy and getting confusing with too many variables flipping true and false to get everything working. This one really stripped down on some of the variables and the comparisons and made things a lot easier. Most of it is going to just be on the screen for people to read through. At this point, I decided that when I click a target, that it would add the 115 offset. That way the helicopter will fly to the mouse click instead of its shadow flying to the mouse click. This is where the script receives the frame number to rotate the collision shapes. So that can be done in an animation player, but really when I put aside using the little conveniences, the helpers, and look at how to do it in script, sometimes it's far easier to get that done in script. And the home angle, this is where the move angle comes from the unit script and goes to the turret script to tell the direction of travel for the helicopter. And the same thing is also done in the tank script now. And that's the whole of the script. There's one little mistake in it where when it lands, I should be changing its view area to being disabled, and then when it takes off up here at the top, um, when it takes off, that view area collision shape should be enabled, and that would correct an issue that I ran into, a little bug where if the helicopter takes off and a target is already in his radius, it isn't seen because it had already discarded that target, so that it doesn't point towards it and shoot at it while it's landed. So in the next video, I'll be looking at getting the camera moving to get some more of the map useful, and start looking at some more environmental things, like maybe a river or a bridge or a forest, so that it's not just a straight flat map with no strategy points or areas to guard or things like that. You know, the things that give the game strategy is really having a shape to the map, and putting in some collision navigation polygons for things that the units have to go around, so that there's areas of interest in the map that should be defended and introduce strategy to the game. And the other thing I'll be looking at is getting an emitter onto the rocket for it to be able to have a little smoke trail behind it. That's one thing we didn't look at, is the rocket. We could glance at that quickly. It's a super simple graphic. The graphic is drawn this way because it has to be rotated, so we want its nose to be at 0. The script is basically the bullet script with rotation added to the rocket so that it's pointing in the direction of its target. And other than that, there's not really any other changes in the script. I modified the control script and got rid of references to vehicles and aircraft and stuff like that because they're not necessary in here anymore. So the only references now will be player and enemy, because sooner or later I'll have to introduce the function where a selected player can be told to change its target with targets that are inside of its view radius, so I can tell the units to attack this target or that target, things like that. And the functionality for the mouse to move the map around when the mouse approaches the camera border to get the camera moving around, that's about the best way I can think of to do it. That's the way that I've done in the past, so I'll be able to do that. So some of that stuff will be in later videos, and until then, take care.